Hello, hello, and hello. Welcome to Focus on Liberia. I'm Sieh, always hosting our program, the Hour of Politics. We have a special guest today, and it is my honor to say, welcome, join us in this exclusive with Mr. Larama Yunton. Our topic that we are discussing today was the CPP framework document author. Folks, give us a little help by sharing the show in any chat room and on any platform so that Liberians can have the opportunity to hear from Mr. Yunton to provide his understanding on what has been unfolding or surrounding this framework document. At this time, I will welcome Ambassador Larama Yunton. Mr. Yunton, it's always good to have you here on the Hour of Politics. Welcome.
Thank you, Ansony. It's a pleasure being here, and I want to say thank you for all of the good work you do for Mama Liberia in terms of dissemination of information. This is a laudable platform.
Thank you, Mr. Yunton. We are glad that you were able to honor our invitation, to talk about this thing. As you well know, this allegation, I call it the wildest political allegation ever in the history of the CPP. It has the propensity to derail it. And so it is good that we get all the understanding and clarifications that are needed for the Liberian people to know what is unfolding. Well, Mr. Yunton will bring you in anything that you want the Liberian people to know about you, as our guest. You have a minute, sir.
Well, a passionate Liberian who cares about the future of our country, beyond this generation to generation unborn. And this is why I elected myself to being a part of the ongoing national conversation about which direction Liberia should go. Because, Ansony, I think if you really look at our recent history, for those of us who were born in the 80s, our generation is the most disadvantaged generation in any time in Liberian history.
Right.
Growing up hit by the war and the devastation of even the post-conflict dynamics that we are all supposed to be working together to put together is still falling between the cracks. So I think is a call for more of us to get deeply involved, to be very entrenched into what's happening across our country, especially as it relates to politics.
And do you care to share with us, politically speaking, especially with this CPP, where you stand politically?
I'm a proud member and stalwart of the All Liberian Party. I mean, it goes without saying.
All right. It's good to know, so that people know where you're coming from. Again, folks, welcome to Focus on Liberia. This is the Hour of Politics. Here at Focus on Liberia, our goals remain to educate, to elevate, and promote all things Liberia, which includes the political discourse. We have with us Mr. Larama Yunton, a proud member, according to him, of the ALP, that is the All Liberian Political Party. Mr. Yunton, our topic, as you are aware, was the CPP framework author. And so let's start with your opening statement on this particular question. Do you believe from your side, the ALP, that the framework document was authored?
Well, it's hard to answer yes or no. You have to draw the context and the environment in which all of these conversations are now taking place. The framework document, as you stated regularly in recent weeks and months, has been a serious document on a political contention within the CPP. Those who have been following would think that it has elevated to wars of wars between the All Liberian Party and the Alternative National Congress. But just to take you back a little in terms of the history, when the political leaders decided that in February of 2019, that based on the previous declaration of intent to working together, that they would sign a memorandum of understanding to actually make that happen. And so they needed a fundamental governing regulation, bylaws that would govern how to come together and to what extent all of the different peripheries that are concerned with the coming together could have been actualized. So the significance of the framework document was given birth. A committee was set up, and that was still in February of 2019. That committee was set up, evolved over time, and moved from just the drafting committee to a review committee, and a final document was published. The final document came out of that process. Now that document was documented April 25th. That was the final framework agreement. The ceremony around that document.
You mean final framework document by the drafters?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you had a drafting committee that was headed by Gaydens, Mr. Gaydens in the Unity Party, and you also had the review committee. Okay, so those were two different committees. So those who drafted the framework document, in a nutshell, although most of them were still on the review committee, but there were also new faces included to form a whole new committee for the review process. So what the outcome of that work produced the final framework document, which was dated on April 25th of 2020.
Yeah, 24th, yeah.
Now, that original document was built around a ceremony which took place on May 19 of the same year, 2020. So correct. It was the signing ceremony of the April 25th original document that took place on May 19. Now, when the framework agreement was signed by all of the political leaders, we all know, right? It was the time where we had a serious health emergency, health crisis as it relates to COVID. And so meeting in person, especially with the stringent government regulation in terms of minimizing in-person meeting, was at its peak. So it was necessary to have had, that ceremony online. The press was invited. Mr. Moali, moderated that section. But the point here is that at the end of the ceremony, the document became a public document. The content and context on which it was written, the intent of the frameworks was tested against public opinion. And Liberians from all walks of life, had some issues with certain provisions within the framework document. And so, it was more than compelling, just as it was compelling for the political leaders at the time they came together and so the cries of the Liberian people, and trying to demystify the myth that opposition political leaders can now work together. And so that necessitated the coming together, an amalgamation of the constituent political parties in its entirety. So it was necessary to go back and say, hey, some of the things that we're hearing on social media across the radio land, across Liberia.
And so what did they do, Mr. Yonton? What did they do when they realized that, hey, there is a serious criticism of the document? I think the document needs to be strengthened. What did they do?
So there was a need for a revisit of the document, right?
Okay.
Now, that was the entire process that led to the formation of what is now referred to as the May 19 document. Now, so in actual sense, the May 19 document did not come as an original document of the CPP. Now, this document, which is dated May 19, notarized on the 14th of July, is being circulated as this document that was actually submitted to the National Elections Commission after a series of work by lawyers that was constituted by the political leaders and the National Advisory Council.
Is that the case, Mr. Yunton? Is that the version that was submitted to the National Election Commission, the one the lawyers amended?
We don't know, and this is the position of the All Liberian Party. We don't know if this May 19th version, as claimed by the Ansony National Congress, is the actual version that was submitted to the National Elections Commission.
So how come you don't know?
So this is why the ALP position is clear. Like, we have reasons to believe that the alteration of the document doesn't reflect what we all agree on, and there's a need for the political leader who is now the chair of the.
Hold on, Mr. Yunton. Earlier, you said when I asked the question, was the framework document altered? You said you don't know, you're not sure, and that it may have, or you can say yes, you can say no. But now you are saying it was altered.
The content of the communication that was documented and written, which state clearly the position of the All Liberian Party by the political leader of the ALP, Mr. Benedict Ure, as clear. I mean, it's circulated out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
We think that the actual document that was submitted to the National Elections Commission doesn't reflect some of the changes that were made in the document.
In other words, the document was altered.
And that, yes, we can use the word although we can play around the changes and what have you, right? But the point here is that he did not stop there. He did not name any constituent political party as being responsible for the alteration of the document. What he requested in that communication.
Mr. Yunton, let me hold you there. Let me hold you there. Did you listen to the press conference of your political party, the ALP?
Sure, we followed through with the press conference.
If you pay attention, we have the clip here.
Mm-hmm.
The spokesperson who spoke on behalf of the ALP was emphatic. He said the document was altered, and he said the corporate will be, the Liberian people will know the corporate, and he accused the ANC through its Secretary General Aloysius Toe. So that is the official statement of the ALP, that the document was altered by Aloysius Toe / the ANC.
Well, I will say to you that the press conference held by the ALP was authorized by the National Executive Committee of the ALP. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it becomes, in addition to the letter written by Mr. Ure, an official position, and there's no contradiction in those two events, right? So I don't want you thinking that there's a contradiction in those two events. Mr. Ure wrote a letter in August of 2021 saying we have reasons to believe, we have reliable information that there's an alteration of the document, and that the document that was submitted to the National Election Commission is not the document we all know.
So how did he get to know that?
So we want you as chairman, Mrs. Youngblin Kanga Lawrence, to try as much as you can to retrieve the copy that was sent to the National Election Commission and do a content by content comparison of the two documents. Now, that is the point of contention. The point of contention is that we are not accusing anyone, but we want to make sure that the document that is actually referencing the—
No, Mr. Yunton, that is not true. You are accusing someone.
No.
Do you agree or disagree?
We did not. If you get a letter, I got a letter here, right? The letter did not specifically state.
I just said to you, are listening to the press conference of ALP when your spokesperson emphatically, and we have the video here, when he accused the ANC through its Secretary General, and you are saying he didn't accuse anybody.
Okay, so you cannot focus on the press conference and dismiss
I have to, because that is the official statement of your party.
The official documented position on the party for the party is the letter that was written, because that was the letter that brought all of this in. So if you follow—
So you are telling me I shouldn't give the press statement from your party any credit?
The press statement can be taken into consideration, but you have to follow the event. Then you have to then you understand the press conference, right? So when this happened, the Alternative National Congress came up with a rebuttal letter from Mr. Cummins that no document was alterated, even though the letter written by Mr. Ure was not addressed to him. They Alternative National Congress have been running around so loudly that, in fact, there was no alteration, and there is this multiple copies of the document. In fact, in their word, they have produced 4 copies of the document. The one they produced, they submitted to the National Elections Commission. The one according to them, the lawyer alterated and made the changes that was approved by the National Advisory Council. The one they have in their own possession, which was a photocopy, we have not seen the original copy. So if you have this trend of events where no single allegation was directed to you in a documented letter that was sent to the chairman of the CPP, who happens to be Liberty Party's political leader, and you have this chain of events leading up to a major press conference by the Alternative National Congress, name calling, laboring, and all of that, you have to respond decisively to that press conference with a decisive action. So the All Liberian Party response was a direct manifestation of what the ANC has been exhibiting, as though they are the one found guilty in the process. So
Mr.
they have
Yanton, Mr. Yanton,
yeah.
How many versions of the CPP framework document do we have as of now that you know of?
Well, I do know of we have 2 versions in our possession, right? One is dated May 19 and was notarized on the 14th of July. And the original version that was signed on May 19 itself.
Is that the one they're referring to as the lawyer's amended version?
The lawyer's amended version came after the original document.
So we have the lawyer's amended version and what I want to consider as the original version dated April 25th, right?
Well, thankfully the investigation that that will be very conclusive by tomorrow will establish the correlation between the lawyer's version and what ANC claimed as the version that is the lawyer version that was submitted to the national. I think the ANC has been shouting so loud, right, without a sense of reasoning or verse of reasoning on this issue. We are concerned about the alteration of the document. We are concerned about a process and procedure that can lead to amicable resolving the issue through an institutional means, right? And that's why we have called for an investigation. And gracefully, we are so thankful that this investigation is ongoing, right? Hopefully by tomorrow or Monday, the public will have clear information as to what really happened at the level of the NEC, because there are some timelines that we can take into consideration. Now, using the defense of our friends from the other side, from the ANC, they claim that the lawyers version of the document is what all of the political leaders signed on, and that was what was submitted. Now, if you have a
statement, and you think that is not true,
if you have a meeting, for me, I analyze the different timelines and the different.
No, I want you to answer my question. They said the amended version done by the lawyers was what they had submitted to NEC after a resolution was signed by the political leaders. Is that not the truth?
Well, I stand with my party position. The political leader of the ALP has said categorically that he did not see any lawyers, on the version of the document that was submitted to the NSC, right? He's part of the National Advisory Council. He's a political leader within the CPP, right? And he did not see a version that the ANC is passing around and saying that everyone saw, everyone signed.
So, now, Mr. Yanton, let me hold you there, sir. Here's the deal. You are saying the document was altered. That is your party position statement, and I have the statement here. All right. Now, if the document was altered, it presupposes that the amended version done by the lawyers that ANC said it has submitted to the National Election Commission must have been different. Is that not the case?
The lawyer did amendment on the original document. Granted, the lawyer recommended changes based on those, based on their reviewed in the mind that could, fine tune the framework agreement to a legal standard, right? The lawyer did present those recommendations, all right?
But
Now,
your recommendation not
there's
included in the framework.
And this is where the conflict is. This is where the confusion is, right? It's the timing between the lawyer's version of the review and the submission of the document. Now, our friends from AMC said that the lawyer recommendations begin binding by the resolution that they collected from all of the political parties. But why were they submitting a document to the National Elections Commission with previous signature of May 19? All right. So at the time the lawyer did their version, fast forward to June 2021. It was time where people could not sit in different locations and do Zoom or online signing, right? So why was that not done? Why were we using a signature page from the previous document, original document, to suffice for the amended version that they claim was submitted to the National Elections Commission? So these are the questions our friends have to answer.
All right, Mr. Yanta, and they have answered the questions, and we'll come to that. But let me say this to you. According to the press conference by the ALP, unquote, there were alterations done. According to the ALP, can you tell me what those alterations are? Because in your press statement, though you said there were alterations done, you did not state the alteration in your press statement. Do you know them?
I tell you this much, Robert. We've done a comprehensive analysis of the two documents that we have in our possession. The document differ in scope, in definition, and in provisions and clauses. Clearly.
So which document are you talking about? The lawyer amended version and the original version?
We don't know of any lawyer amended version. And
so there is no lawyer amended version?
We don't know of any. We know lawyers work on the document after there was public outcry. They made recommendations to that effect. We don't know of lawyer version.
All right, so then let's do this. Let's hear from your political leader, Comrade Mr. Yunton. Let's hear from your political leader what he said concerning that. Let's listen.
Well, look, let me just make this crystal clear to you. We did sign a framework document. 4 political parties signed a framework document. And under his leadership, he convinced us that there was a need to have lawyers look at the document and put it in legal perspective. We agreed. So the process began. The last we heard of it is we had a meeting at Liberty Party's headquarters, and the lawyers all showed up. Most of them showed up, and they brought to our attention all the major changes they made in the framework document, and they explained why, and we all concurred. Now it was left for them, for the chairman and the executive committee who were working on this document. We have gone back and compiled the document. After the compilation of the document should have been brought back to each political party. And the political party executive committee, we have met and approve or disapprove of the document. In the instance where all the executive committee approve it, then the political leaders will have signed the document and the amended document and taken to the next. That didn't happen.
Now, so Comrade, clearly we see that he's saying they were advised that the document need to be looked at and that it was given to the lawyers with their approval. But the word amended version, and that the amended version is supposed to be brought back to them for the NEC to review, approve, and then they will sign. Tell me.
So it's clear that in addition to the procedure error that was highlighted by Mr. Uri, it's clear that there are other breaches, right? Um, our position has not been that there wasn't a lawyer led and approved process of relooking the document after May 19th. That has not been our position. Our
Well,
position,
earlier you said there was no lawyer amended version. That's why you said, Yanton.
I said there was no lawyer amended version because anything that
Yeah,
is
but Ure is saying there's a lawyer amended version.
anything that when you saw that there was procedural error in the first place, anything that is not done properly is not done at all. So there doesn't exist a lawyer amended version. We have two versions of this document. One, the one that was sent to the National Elections Commission, dated May 19, notarized 14th of July.
How you gave the lawyers, the political leaders, gave the lawyers their approval to go and amend. And so they have done their work based on the lawyer's approval. And yet you're saying that it's not a lawyer amended version?
Because it was the lawyer version, all of the changes. Now, let's go back to the process leading to the finalization of the first framework document.
Mm-hmm.
So you had a constitution draft committee,
mm-hmm.
You had the review committee, you have that circulating within the National Executive Advisory Council and that of the National Executive Committee, mm-hmm. and then final approval and signature of all of the political leaders, right? Mm-hmm. That process was not holistically exhausted after Mr. Cummins had convinced all of the political leaders that there was a need to relook the document and bring it up to legal standards. Mm-hmm. All right. So anything that is not done procedure-wise in the context of general administration, mm-hmm. properly in the context of law as well, is mm-hmm. not done at all. So in our mind, there is two versions of this document. The original document and the one submitted to the National Elections Commission by the Alternative National Congress. Mm-hmm. The lawyer version and the recommendations were not finalized, was not carried out through to the letter to the end administratively, and they only have meeting on it. I saw a text message circulating from the ANC that the Cummins brought to the attention of the political leaders, and they have meeting, but it was not finalized.
All right, correct. Then what you are saying here is that you are citing
those recommendations made weren't finalized, not at the National Advisory Council level or the National Executive Committee level. So it cannot have been that document that the ANC will hold, as a legitimate document to submit to the National Elections Commission. It's not possible.
All right, Nyonton, what you are saying here and what the ARP is saying, from what I'm understanding, I'm learning from all of you here, your press statement, also your political leader, is that there were procedural errors. But then the ANC is contending there was no procedural error, and this is what they said. One, they said the lawyers made their initial presentation to the political leaders on June 19, 2020. Now, because the political leaders have given them the go-ahead to go and amend the document. So they came back and they made their initial presentation. That is according to the ANC. Now, they say on June 22nd, 2020, the then CPP chair, Mr. Alexander Benedict Cummins, submitted the amended framework document and the issue arising from the review received from the legal committee to the CPP NAC, that's the National Advisory Committee. So you see that the procedure is going on, right? Because these are the things you said were not done. Now, on June 23rd, 2020, the legal committee made a presentation to the NAC at the headquarters of the Liberty Party. All party leaders were present. These are the procedural errors you say did not happen, but they are documenting them. They say the parties review the amended framework document from the legal committee and approve the amendments as were submitted at the meeting. And you are saying none of these things were done. It said that you just missed this, or are they just telling plain lies?
Well, we didn't say none of them were done. The procedure leading to the process for the finalization of the amended version was not adequately exhausted. And that constitutes a procedure breach, it constitutes procedure error. So no amount of justification on how you're supposed to take a particular item from point A to point B, and you stop in the middle of the row and decide that you have exhausted all the means, so that constitutes exhaustion. The ANC has been trapped with procedure error. But that is not our focus. Let's forget about the procedure error, right? It's the diabolical intent to use the lawyer version recommendations as contained to justify.
So now you want us to leave the procedural errors?
No, it's part of the conversation.
Okay.
But we have to transcend the procedural aspect of the conversation, right? There are other technical issues with the conversation. Okay, why is the ANC? What did the ANC submit in May 19 document that was notarized on the July 14 to the National Elections Commission and claim that that's the lawyer version that which all of the parties were signatory to? Now, there was not a formal signing ceremony after the amendments were done. According to them, Mo Ali went around, but Mo Ali went around. The timing of Mo Ali's collection of signature doesn't suffice with the timing of the time the lawyers reviewed this document and was in the mind of the ANC was ready to have been submitted to the NEC. So there's a lot of details that we have to pay attention to in order to get the real fight and intent for why these are happening. And this is why we are so glad that there is an investigative committee that's reviewing the content. Because if you look at the two documents, there are so much changes, so much legal reframing that is done to the document for some real political purpose to put another party in a advantageous position over the other. And that is not the intent for which the CPP was in the first place created.
So, Comrade Yaton, talking about the procedural steps, right? The ANC continue, and I'm bringing these things up because you have some disagreement. You are citing procedural errors, and they are saying this. So it's your words against your words, and that's what I'm bringing them up. So I want to give you the opportunity to respond so that your side can be clear. That's the clarity we're looking for. Now, according to the ANC, the parties reviewed the legal draft Tuesday, June the 23rd to Saturday, June the 27th. Now, Mr. Ure, when he was speaking, he said that, the document was not compiled. But according to the ANC, they say compilation of feedback by the legal team was done Monday, June the 29th to Wednesday, July the 21st. Now, talking about the ratification, he said there was a joint ratification by all parties on Tuesday, July the 2nd, 2020. And then it went on to say submission of resolution ratifying the framework document was done July 3 to 5th, 2020. So what I'm bringing these things up is that, and even talking about signature, it came here to say the Liberty Party and the AFP resolution have a notarization date of July the 7th, 2020. In fact, the Liberty Party political leader personally signed and dated hers on July the 1st. So when you're talking about procedures, these are the procedures. So where's the procedural error that you are talking about?
So, Ansony, first of all, for those of us who are very, very adept with program planning and execution, right? When you have a particular task and activities you draw a timeline to those, right? If you read the WhatsApp communication that circulated around Facebook on the political leader of the ANC communicating to his colleagues, you will realize that he was talking about timeline, right? Now, our argument is not that this timeline didn't happen; it didn't follow up to the end. Now, if the ANC is questioning that resolution was signed at the time the political leaders had not signed to the second amended document. Those resolutions were generated based on the meeting that took place at the level of the National Advisory Council. So you cannot hold that in constant to argue another point that was failed to have been delivered on the fact that they needed to come back. There needed to be a sitting of the National Executive Committee. There needed to be another, whether it was now a publicly held ceremony for the leaders, the political leaders, to have signed the second version based on the lawyer's recommendation. All of those did not happen. So they are making up, their own timelines and own dates, and we expect that they will, because I think they are on a crossfire at this point.
You just said the timelines were filed, and now you are saying they are making up their timelines?
No, but it's possible. It's possible that, because we are clearly saying that these things happened, but it did not follow up to the end. We are clearly saying that resolutions were signed. But does it mean that the parties, the political leaders, did sign after the amendment was done? No, they used the signature sheet from the previous original document and had it on the second document. So why are you escaping that aspect of the signature?
Well, your political leaders signed a resolution confirming all the processes that have been laid out in the timeline.
No, bro,
in the document.
The document is the document. Resolution is not a document. Resolution affirms the position of the party that these changes were made, but these changes have to go through the National Advisory Council.
Changes on what? Changes on what?
The lawyers met.
Changes on the document, right?
I think we're talking in circles right now. The lawyers met. They agreed that the lawyers will meet and do some changes. The lawyers made those recommendations.
But you're not trying to say that the resolution is different from the document.
We are saying that the resolution was not finally signed. The procedure was not reached to the end. There may have been a sinister and malicious reason why the ANC would.
So what would be that sinister and malicious reason?
And then you have to do analysis of the two documents. If you do a clear analysis,
no, you are suggesting that there might be a sinister and malicious intent here.
If you do analysis of the two documents, then you will see some of the reasons why the ANC is hiding behind the lawyer's version, which did not suffice to find a signature of the political leaders.
So which version are you hiding behind?
Well, we are saying that we need investigation. We are not hiding behind any version. We believe that the process of the CPP must be transparent. No one political party has the right and liberty to use the privilege of their chairmanship at the time, given the CPP rotational chairmanship, to do any form of diabolical manipulation of any legal document within the CPP. So we're very clear. We are calling for transparency, and that's what we're hiding behind.
Thank you. All right, folks, you are watching Focus on Liberia. This is our program, The Hour of Politics, with me, Ansony Sieh. I have with me Mr. Laraman Yanton. I call him to him. He is a proud member of the All Liberian Political Party. We will take a short break. When we come back, we have the ANC, not the AMC, sorry, the ALP press statement that was delivered by a deputy secretary, from my understanding. And we were listening to that statement in which he clearly said the document was altered. And some time back, we listened to some officials of the ALP saying they had some concerns and that they think that some clauses in the framework were altered. They have concern with mentally and physically fit, headquarters, a lot of things they've been nitpicking, and we'll go into that. Stay tuned and we'll be right back.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
And I am Ansony Sieh on the Hour of Politics here. My guest is Mr. Laraman Yanton, a proud member of the ALP. At this time, we will go to the ALP press statement in which clearly, according to the ALP, the document was altered. Watch.
To date, and upon a request of the CPP chairperson, Alexander B. Cummins, and the ANC have failed to produce the original copy of the framework agreement. They continue to masquerade with photocopy versions of the FA, which is the framework agreement. That is why we are kindly asking loudly, Cummins and the ANC, where is the original copy of the FA you claim we signed? But the ALP wishes to emphatically state that it stands by its call for an investigation into the FA, and it will not be deterred by unsubstantiated lies. The ALP will make available all of its facts to the investigative committee, and we will assure the Liberian people that there will be no business as usual regarding this matter. However, in this era of information dissemination it is necessary to correct some of the falsehoods provided by the ANC. The ALP would like to categorically deny or correct the following misinformations: that there were no alterations in the framework document, which is currently under investigation and allegation by the political leader of the All Liberian Party, unquote. And he termed that as evil lie against Kume and a propaganda intended to harm and devalue the CPP. The ALP response: the ALP believes that very strongly that there was deliberate procedural violation and the content of the document was manipulated in several different ways with facts we have in our hand. Noticeably, we stand by our statement dated August 18, 2021, and await the outcome of the investigative committee's report, which is scheduled for the Friday the 1st of October 2021. We believe that we will be vindicated and the Liberian people will know the true culprit in the CPP. Two, on the ANC in their press statement, on June 23, 2020, a legal committee made a presentation in the presence of political leaders after we asked their assistance. Yes, the ALP respond. It is true that the CPP sought the assistance of legal luminaries to assist in the process of which they did, and changes were recommended. I repeat, changes were recommended, not made in the document, recommended, and were subsequently presented to the CPP in a meeting at the Liberty Party headquarters.
All right, comrade, let's leave it there before we get to the substance of what he said there. I have a question. In the beginning of the press statement, I watched everything. He said that the ALP remains a serious political party. My question to you, what makes the ALP a serious political party? You are muted, comrade.
Well, the ALP is an integral part of the collaborating political parties. It has been very involved with the formulation of the framework document. As a matter of fact, the first rotating chairman of the collaborating political party came from the ALP. We provided direction, we provided leadership, we provided guidance to the rest of our sisterly constituent parties within the formation exercise, the giving birth of what is now today the CPP. You cannot, overemphasize how important that leadership role provided by the standard bearer, the political leader of the All Liberian Party was. I had been, some wishy-washy kind of leader. I've been someone who has not been tested, who do not understand the fundamentals of national leadership as it relates to how germane it is, to form and unite the obligation bloc. The ALP would not have succeeded, but Europe being who he is, was able to, to advance, to meet the occasion, rise to that occasion, and formulate a serious alternative that is now a government in waiting as in the CPP. So that's, make the ALP a very viable, serious, and unequivocally indomitable party and a force within the collaborating political parties.
So what kind of serious political party, one will not be feeding a candidate if it is serious and has any political clout or capital to contest in the political contest, but we choose to ride on the back of another candidate? That is one. What kind of serious political party, Mr. Europe being a serious political leader as head of the CPP, then handpick his daughter? Talk to me about that.
Well, let's talk about the fight and the session that Mr. Europe is not going to be on the ballot in 2023. We are a party that believes in fights, in reality, unlike some of our friends who are considered crusaders of anti-realism, who do not analyze numbers. They believe that numbers do not tell fights, unless some of our other friends who believe that the fight that you contested in a major election in 2017 and Reddit did not perform, those numbers will be used as a gauge and baseline in the next political process. So the data from 2017 is enough to tell us that Mr. Uri's chances in 2023, he doesn't have a clear path to the presidency in 2023. And there's nothing wrong with you doing that self-evaluation, self-examination of yourself and facing the objective reality of what is. Now, unless our friends on the other side, they believe that the minority should govern the majority, even within the CPP, you see that all over the place. There have been tons of different, polls organized by commentators across Facebook, across radio, and those polls are gauging and telling you clearly that the best pathway to national leadership, the best pathway to fixing what is happening in the country today and dealing with the we-are-led messes and excesses and paralysis is just a human worker. But our friends live in an alternative world.
The question was, what kind of serious political party is not feeding its own candidate?
I'm responding to your question because you're asking the question as though you're reading from the ANC playbook, right? And if you're reading from
you can accuse me of anything, and that's fine. I know the tactics of politicians.
The comparison with that, right? So we have seen the reality of things. We have seen the numbers from the 2017 election, and our pathway to 2023 presidency is far-fetched. And having said that, we believe in the process of the reconstitution.
Are you feeding a candidate in this primary and also the upcoming 2023 presidential elections?
Which primary? The ALP,
the CPP upcoming convention.
The ALP supposed to be Mabaka for the standard bearership.
So you're not feeding your own
candidate. Mr. Uri has said over and over that he supports Joseph Yoman Boaka for the standard bearership of the CPP.
And that's just seriousness in your opinion?
What constitutes seriousness to you might not necessarily constitute seriousness to anyone else.
I agree with that.
What constitutes a serious political party is their ability to have a critical political analysis of what's happening on the ground and come in terms with objective realities of the people and understand that those different pools that have been surveys and pool and voter perception surveys that we've seen over time speaks to the fight that Joseph Yomambuaga is the best possible vehicle we can use to unseat we are in 2023, and it's clear. So that
Uri does not stand a chance. And that Uri does not stand a chance.
Uri is not going to be on the ballot. So how difficult is that to understand?
No, I'm just asking, does the pool you cited also say that Uri does not stand a chance?
We have not been mentioning any pools. The pools that we have been saying has been...
So he's politically irrelevant?
Uri is not. If Uri is politically irrelevant, how will the ANC have a major press conference to respond to what I call elementary rants?
Apparently, because he
elementary rants on Uri.
Apparently, because he alleged that there was nefarious teachings done to the documents.
No, but Ansony, let's be honest. How can Uri be insignificant when you have a leaked text exchanges between Sieh and that of the political leader of the ANC that specifically draw up strategy of going into the gutter on the basis of attacking Mr. Uri? How can that man be irrelevant when you spend most of your years, most of your hours and days in planning how to win the CPP primary, but targeting him as a major fighter as though you're running against him for the standard bearer position? Could that be relevant to that extent that you have politics over him? How is that possible?
Could that be politics?
No, that's not politics. That's the reality. He's not irrelevant. He is a major strategic force.
The second half of my question was Mr. Uri, as chairman of CPP, handpicking his dollar, Talia Uri. You want to speak to that?
You want to talk about the ANC going through formalities and procedure, but then you don't want to talk about the procedure and formality that was used.
I thought we have been talking about a procedure of long time.
Consistent with the CPP and how candidates for what is representative of Senate were chosen over time. You have to remember that
Do you want to answer my question or not, Mr. Yunton? Do
I'm
you
going
want
to answer the question.
question?
The same time
I mean, it's your
TDI
right to not answer the question. I mean,
Well,
I understand that.
the process was holistic. It met consensus, and consensusship is part of the rules of engagement of the framework agreement and the framework document. So you have those 6 listed rules of engagement, guiding principle of the CPP, which talk about consensusship. TDI was a candidate based on consensus, just as Darius Dillon was a candidate based on consensus. So there's no breach of anything within the framework document.
The only thing was Telia just happened to be the daughter of the chairman of the CPP at the time, right?
It happens to be TDI Ure. It could be Larama Yonton running in District 15. It could be anyone that's running in District 15. If the basis of the establishment of the candidacy was based on consensus, it was based on consensus. It was not handpicked.
I will take that answer. Larama Yonton there is my guest. He has agreed to sit in the hot seat, and I'm just doing my job. Mr. Yonton, let's come to this accusation. Your statement clearly said the document was altered. And I listened to Telia in one of the platforms talking about her concerns that she had with some of the changes or the amendments that were done. So let us come to some of them, and I hope you can come back here. So let me show this to you. One of the things that she cited was the issue of duration. And if you're looking on the screen there, we have duration or document, meaning the April 25th document, Article 11, time frame for the alliance. This time frame shall come into existence on the date of signing by the parties. It shall be a living instrument and shall end with the coming into being of a higher level of integration or measure. Now, the amended version, that's the amended version according to some leaders, it says, and this one is in section 1.1 of the new document. That's the one that was sent to NEC. This framework document shall come into existence on the date of signing by the constituent political parties. It shall remain in full force and effect until 6 months after the conduct of the constitutionally scheduled presidential and general elections of 2023, at which time the signatories yet to may proceed to integration of measure. So that is one of the things you raised concern about. Do you have concern about this actually?
Well, why do we have to put time frame to the duration of an instrument, the framework agreement, that's going to be the guiding fundamental principle that guides our existence for as long as we remain in the alliance? Why should we have a timeline to it? Why should we limit our being together to only the event of what happens in 2023 as it relates to the general and presidential election? Like, it's almost like, formulating the Constitution.
Does it favor anybody? Does the language favor anybody? So what's your major concern with
the
this?
framework document must remain, should remain a living and breathing document that governs the institution.
And you think the change there did not make it a living document?
It doesn't make sense to put a timeline to the framework, the existence of the framework document.
That was why the lawyers added though.
It doesn't make sense to put a timeline, because there is also a clause where you, as a constituent political party, can decide if you want to leave the collaboration. So you are not like, this is not a living prison. It's not a living jail that you're forced to remain in. And so there is a need to have a timeline. So when that timeline reaches and elapses, then you have the liberty to go. No.
I get your argument, but is there anything nefarious about that?
I think it is not necessary. That is, the duration is not a grave issue, but it's necessary to be highlighted because it's part of the changes that were made. But it is not necessary to have a timeline to the duration of existence of a legal document that holds together a collaboration or an alliance.
All right, then this is another concern that you have from your end. This section in the old document, which is the April 25th, it reads, that is section 10.1.10. Physically and mentally unfit means any physical or medical condition that have advanced to affect the person's cognitive and mental ability, or other health conditions to include terminal illness, which may likely cause fatality within a year. In the amended version, ANC is saying, this is the version that was done by the lawyer erased. And this is in Article 1 on the definition, Section 1.10. Good state of health means a state of physical and mental capacity that enables a person to effectively perform something like that. What is wrong with this?
Well, if you follow some of the conversation that that have been happening over time, some people have been suggesting that Mr. Yuri cognitive ability, there's a reason to question it. He doesn't remember things.
You think Mr. Yuri or Mr. Barker?
No, sorry, Mr. Barker, right?
Okay, yeah.
So these are conversations that already been happening in the corridor. Okay, so to even include, the phrase that you have to be physically, which they cannot debate. Mr. Barker is physically fit. He's healthy.
So then why are you having concern about it?
That's why you include the physical as well as the mental ability. So the point here is that we cannot determine to what extent, to what stress, good health can be. Now, where there is ambiguity in the law, we run back as basic of reliance on the framer's intent.
Do you want a physically and mentally fit president for Liberia, Mr. Yunton?
We are not arguing that, but even the Constitution of Liberia doesn't support discrimination on the basis of health. Those who are running for president now, what is happening in the CPP is a microcosm of what's going to happen at the national level as far as the general elections is concerned, right? So if the Constitution of our country is not discriminating on the basis of health, why are we discriminating within the CPP on the basis of health? In fact, there should be no clause. Absolutely, there should be no clause.
But Mr. Yunton, I see no difference. Yeah. I see no difference between that language and the original language in the original document.
No. The original document is specific. It has a borderline. It has peripherals that confine the definition of good health. Go back and put it there. You see it, right? Okay. It speaks specifically to a situation or an event.
Terminal illness and all that, right?
Terminal illness, right? It is known, right? If you are terminally ill, you are in the hospital, you can do nothing.
And it also talk about connective ability.
But if you have terminal illness, there's no way you can be physically fit, right? There's no way you have physical capacity. You are somewhere on one hospital bed.
But Mr. Barker is physically fit. The guy is
no, that's the original part of the framework document. So you have to be in that event, in that condition. Then we say, okay, you are not fit. Maybe you're in the hospital, you're sick, you've been sick for a long time. You're not fit to be president. And the president in themselves will even know that, hey, I don't think I can make it, because of health issues, health reasons, right? But if you broaden the scope, in the amended version, that you have to be physically and mentally have that capacity. You broaden the scope because you remove terminal illness. That means that once I sneeze, right? For those who have migraine headache, right? Once you sneeze, you start to develop headache. Once you start to have stress, you start to develop headache, right? Once your head is hurting, you are not physically or mentally fit. All right. So that means that you are not even physically or mentally fit to hold office. So these are common conversations we need to start having. I think the intent of that particular clause was targeted, was a way to discriminate against a party that is running. And we've been hearing conversations long before that clause was included and added that people think that Joseph Yoman Barker is not physically, mentally, and health-wise fit to be the next president. And that's erroneous, to say the least.
Mr. Yanta, are you with me?
Yeah.
Go ahead and complete your thought, please.
Yeah, completely my thought. So I mean, we don't agree with that. We don't agree with the broader scope and definition of what constitutes good health. And I think it is also important that some of these clauses and provisions within the framework document falls in line with what the Supreme Lord of the land, as enshrined within our Constitution, provides for people who wants to be president or senator or representative, because it's clear there's no discrimination on the basis of health in our Constitution.
Thank you, Mr. Yunta. And, overall, right, language, ANC saying, hey, the changes that you see were what the lawyers did, and those were accepted through a resolution. In fact, the lawyers were given the blessing of the political leaders. So what you're talking about is what the lawyers did and not anything that we did. If you look at the language, let Mr. Yunta. When you look at those modifications, those amendments, I did not see anything from my own understanding that favors a particular candidate over the other. And I also noticed that the language as amended by the lawyers even made the document a little more formal. Now, I understand, there are preferences when it comes to language, but I didn't see any intent of any criminality because one of your party's member, he accused Alexander Benedict Cummings of criminality. He was, plain blank, he said the man's a criminal, and even used the word the document was finger. And to date, you have not been able to provide the fingering of the document, the alteration. You have not been able to state anything.
Well, it's going to be disingenuous to even, lay the basis of your argument on whether this has been provided or this has not. There are only two documents. The one claimed to have been submitted, in which our brothers from the other side hadn't been on lawyer's amendment, and the one we know of. These are the two documents you have to your privilege. If there's any other document, let the ANC bring it, because we have not seen original copy of any framework document that was signed by political leaders, except for the ones that they extracted the signature page from the main document and submitted to the National Elections Commission. So we do not have to go in cycles with this whole claim versus counterclaim on these are the changes that we have analyzed based on the two documents that are in our possession. And these changes are graved. These are not ordinary changes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Yunta. Again, folks in cyberspace, you are watching Focus on Liberia. This is our program, The Hour of Politics, with me, Ansony, Sieh, always your host here. It is about time for you to speak, ask your questions, or forever hold your peace. My guest, Mr. Larama Yunta, a proud member of the All-Liberian Party of Benina Ure, is here. I don't know why in Liberia we always ascribe the parties to individuals, and then we turn around, we say, oh, and we people trying to individualize the party. I guilty of this. Hey, folks,
all party.
Yeah, please, place in your call, and this is the only number I want you to call. This is the only number I want you to call, and this is our conference number. Please call now or forever hold your peace. Mr. Yunta, while we wait for the audience to place in their call, we will take a short break. When we come back, we'll read some comments and then get to the call. So please place in your call right now.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Dennis Jah, and I'm Ansony Sieh, and we are back. And please, we want to get your calls. We are waiting for you, but while we wait, we will be able to take some comments right down. So we are going to the comment section. We already have a caller. So caller, please wait there as we bring in some comments, and then we will get to the calls. Let's hear from, that is Donchar Stanley. I didn't say it was Otto. He said we believe it was. All right. Let's hear from Nestor Sandy. Host Anthony. No, it's Ansony. Your guess. Jitterness is implicating. I don't know. Somebody is accusing my guess of, jittering here. River says pro, right? Who is this guy? Everyone seems to be speaking on the framework. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing in the news now, right? Or let's hear from Abel, right? Guess stop misleading the people. Your political leader accused the ANC of tampering with the document. Yeah, from River says, Pro, your guest has to be prepared to come on this show. He might say the wrong thing and implicate his party. That person writes. Let's see some more comments here. I see a lot of comments here. Let's hear from Samuel Moga. If Cummings could convince the 3 other political leaders to sign a document without reading it, he's the best leader for Liberia. That person might be making a sarcastic point there. Let's hear from, this is a long one. This guy is confused. The FA carries the May 19th date because officially that was when the document was signed by all parties. Therefore, it had to maintain that historic date. Even when you Google the CPP, it is clearly stated that the FA was signed on May 19th. If the document carry any other date, that will be a contradiction. Let's hear from Evelyn here. This guy is right. Resolution is not the final document. Evidently, the process was not fully completed and adhered to. That person writes. Let's hear from, this is Meek Mose. Thanks for the show, guys. And let me remind you that Mr. Ure even said that that interview that he did receive a tip-off from someone in the cycle of the National Election Commission. However, how can you trust this guy if they cannot uphold or stand by their own statute? That person wrote. Let's hear from foreign guy. Yeah, why are you a foreign guy, man? We want you to be a Liberian. This case just has to go to court where it can better be handled instead of all the noise, because even the investigation going on will be challenged in court. Let's hear from Hamilton here. I think if I am understanding the guest clearly, the resolution was signed by all parties, was met for agreement for the changes preferred by the lawyers and not signatures for the final document. Well, I hope he understands the guest. Yeah, from Bowman, and I know him to be an ANC guy. If your guest's entire argument is based on 2017 number, then let's agree that George Weah wins in 2023. And he went on to say, weak argument. Let's bring in some more comments here, and then we go to our caller. Let me take this one from Sam Pada. Why ANC always debating on jail being current age? Is that bad for someone to live long? That person is asking a question. All right, Mr. Yonton, just a few comments, respond to the comments, and then respond you have, then we can go to the calls.
Yes, so I think it's important to, inform our people. I think from the comments, there are 3 groups, those who are really independent and wanting to know exactly what is happening as it relates to the ongoing conversation around the framework agreement. Those who already have a side that wouldn't choose, any other side besides what, they have dogmatically made up their mind to believe in, and those who just want the truth. So the truth of the matter is that the resolution, as I said, doesn't make the final document final. The resolution was indeed emanating from the political parties as a resolution based on the recommended agreement. Now, the recommendations from those lawyers did not constitute in itself a final document in the absence of the procedure, administrative as well as technical procedures that were needed to have that resolution binding. So if the ANC is hiding behind the lawyer's version, then where is the original version? This is where we have come in with the argument. Where's the original version? They have not shown us the original version. what we have in the possession based on.
I thought the original version would be the April 20th, the one dated April 25th.
If there was an amendment, then there will be a new original version, because the original version of the document was obviously said to have by the political leaders.
You said there are only two versions, the one dated April 25th and the one dated May 19th. So what other version are you talking about?
No, after the amendment, there could have been a version established by the ANC's procedures, right? In the argument, it will be a version to reflect those amendments.
Okay.
That was not done. So what we're saying is that why are they hiding behind the lawyer's recommendations? Why are they hiding it beyond the lawyer's recommendation?
Why do you mean hiding when all the political leaders approved this amendment, or it was recommended? If I can use your words, you said it was recommended that they should go and do it. So they did it. So you said hiding.
I asked you to do something and you come and you didn't finalize in doing it. Was it done? I mean, let's be real.
They said it was done through the resolution.
The recommended changes. Those changes were being effected, and those changes, the ANC claim now that those changes was effected, and that's the document is submitted. Okay. So if you're hiding beyond the lawyer's version, where is the original document?
All right.
Now, emanated out of the lawyer's revision of the process. They cannot. They cannot tell us where it is.
So the one at NEC. The one at NEC, have you been able to take a look at it? When I say you are talking about ALP leadership, have you been able to take a look at it? Or you don't have the power to ask it to happen?
Comprehensive analysis was done on the May 19 and the April 27 documents. Comprehensive analysis, and some of the things you flag out are the things that came out in terms of the discrepancies between the clauses and rewording of the definition of certain key terminology within the document, as well as provisions. So yes, we've done a comprehensive analysis of those.
All right, thank you again, folks. You are watching Focus on Liberia on our program, The Hour of Politics. At this time, we will go to our callers. And callers, please, I will give you a minute and a half for you to make your point. And if you have a question, you can also do. John Mangulo, you are live. Let's hear you.
Good afternoon. Listen, you know, this group of people really want to assume that the Liberian people are stupid, because you cannot explain this kind of thing to any sensible person and expect them to believe you. There's nothing that was done about this constitution or this framework document that all four political parties were not present. Even after the lawyers made the amendment, they all took it to the executive committee and signed it with a resolution and sent it back. So I don't know what these guys are talking. I think what they're trying to do is to create doubt, because that's all they can be doing there. You're contesting the paper that was sent to NEC. NEC gave you a copy. Compare it to what the lawyers did. What's so hard about that? Why are you passing all around talking about documents, somebody finger, somebody criminal, and somebody this? But you can't show nobody where the changes are. And if the changes that were made by the lawyers don't affect anybody in particular, what is the criminality in it? These people need to stop this children play. Whatever they want to do, let them do it. But they can't come here and start treating us like we're stupid, because we're not.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's leave it there. Let's come to the next caller here. James Quay. I hope I pronounced your name well. James, let's you. You have 1 minute and a half. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Ansony. Thank you to your studio guest. Well, my understanding about the whole situation is that I have come to understand that there was a procedural error, in my view.
Okay.
And what was that error? Well, initially, the original document was signed by all of them. So when you make a recommendation and give it back to the lawyer, and then taking it to the chairman, Mr. Fumi at the time, after you compile it, you have to also bring it back to the people who it's going to affect, that is the four political leaders, they will also have to go over it, approve it by signing. In my view, this was not done. And if that was not done,
may I hold you there? May I hold you there? This is not a defense. It's just because of the information we have to our disposal. The ANC is saying, and it said in a press conference, that the day out of that first there was an initial presentation by the lawyers done on June 19. That when the document was amended, the ANC chairman called a meeting, and the legal committee made a presentation to the NAC, which is the National Advisory Council, at the headquarters of the Liberty Party. And then after that, it was reviewed, and then there was a resolution, and the political leader signed. That's what they're saying. Go ahead.
Okay, all right, Mr. Tony. What is wrong with this whole situation is that the 4 political leaders have already appointed a committee to investigate. Everything we are doing, we are only trying to put our own work into the situation, how we understand it. So whether ANC is saying the truth, or whether ALP is saying the truth or not,
right? The
only people that will allow us to understand the actual truth is the investigation that is going on. So all of us may come here, I may say whatever I want to say, Mr. Newton in the studio could say whatever he wants to say. Is it the truth or not? But for what I have come to understand in administration, if you are my office boy and I ask you to go and do a document, I mean,
man, are you posted? Man, you still using an office boy? Well, hold on, James. I mean, can you correct that word? You still using the office boy thing? You look at whole human being going office boy.
I'm sorry,
there's not a title for. I don't know. Anyway, go ahead.
I'm telling people, if I give a job to my secretary, okay, I made all the rectification and everything. I gave it to her or him to go and rectify the mail.
Right.
Okay, when he shall have done all of those, he will have to bring it back to me to go over it and sign it.
All right.
Approve it.
Thank you.
But my understanding is that this was not done, and that's the procedural error.
All right. Thank you so very much. He made her case there. Let's hear from Frances Manka. I hope I got your name right. Your number ends in 5356. Go ahead. Let's hear you. You have a minute and a half.
Yeah, my name is Gemo George, actually.
Okay.
I have a question and follow up. I would like to ask the guest as the ambassador, is he an ambassador designated? When was he accredited as an ambassador and where did he serve? The next issue here is that I heard him speaking that of the document as if to say the document was made for Mr. Cummings or Mr. Boycott. I think it's wrong and unfair many times for us to interpret a document that is a framework, a constitutional framework of organization based on an individual. So for him to think that the definition is based on Mr. Boycott is completely wrong, because nobody made a document with an individual at mind or at heart. And finally, the ANC political leader himself said that he received the recommendations of the lawyer. His own words also say that he participated in the entire process. So to have a gentleman from ANC coming up to try to debunk something that his own political leader has said, I believe is something that we should hardly question him, because he seems to be questioning the integrity of his own political leader. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And Mr. Yunton, can you take a minute and chime in on the callers, contribution there?
So I don't get it. How am I questioning the integrity of my political leader? The tips were clear. The press conference yesterday were clear. The position of the All Liberian Party has been very emphatically clear. Clearly articulated what is footage or through a written document. The ALP wants investigation into this. My own term on defending the matter is based on what's available to me in terms of the 2 documents that we have done comprehensive analysis on. Now, as far as procedure error, no amount of justification from the ANC can suffice in the fight that the final process of signing was not done to legitimize whatever document that they say is the lawyer version document that was also, according to them, submitted to the National Elections Commission. So we continue to ask why they hadn't beyond lawyer's version when that was not finalized and signed. Resolutions are not final legal binding document. The resolution was the aid in acknowledgement and affirmation to a process that was done by the lawyers, and the lawyers did recommend that they did not infuse changes because they cannot do that without the acquiescence of the political leaders, the National Administrative Advisory Council, and the National Executive Committee. So we have to be very clear on this. So it leads us to believing that if indeed the document that was submitted to the National Elections Commission was submitted without these processes being fulfilled, then it is diabolical. It is malicious. All right. How will someone, submit document that belongs to everybody, that everybody is supposed to review and have it signed before submit it surreptitiously, submit it under the cover of darkness, submit it in a way as if that other people do not have entitlementship to review this document before it is submitted. These are the questions that we are asking our friends from the other side. We are not saying that you are up against the JMB people or JMB to be exact, that it is because the document is framed to disempower, to disenfranchise JMB. No, nobody can. The Liberian people are very clear as to what they want in 2023. And, they have resoundingly said it in polls and in other in other expressions over time across the country. So it's clear that he has the appeal, he has the number, he's going to win. So no amount of manipulation with a framework document can help you to arrive at the presidency in 2023. So we have to go to the bottom of this. We have to go to the root of this, because it is the very fair basis on which we can build the credibility of the CPP moving forward.
All right. Laura Manyanton is my guest, and one of the callers asked, why are you carrying the title ambassador? Where have you served? You care to comment?
Well, I think the question was limited. You don't have to serve to be. You can be accredited. And in 2012, I worked as a EU focal president for Carter Center and was subsequently honored as ambassador of peace service for my work and contributions in Liberia.
All right. Thank you there. Mr. Yanton, let's do this. In the press statement by the ALP, you said there's an investigation going on, and when the investigation is concluded, the culprit will be made known to the Liberian people. It sounds like you guys know the culprit. Do you know that person?
No, we are not going to jump the boat as much as we have reasons to believe that this document was ordered, but we also want to go through the due process. And the due process is by the establishment of this committee that's going to review and investigate and come up with the findings. So we can only look forward to the findings of the report. We do not want to jump the boat. Okay. And that's fair enough. The political leader, unlike the representative of the ALP, in his brutal and harsh response, which was necessary to have responded to Elijah Stowe in his spewing of rants against the political leader of the ALP. But we have maintained clear direction in terms of articulating what our concerns are and how we want these concerns to be addressed.
Some people describe the ANC press statement as very strong and powerful, that it has ripped off your political leader and Mr. Henry Pedro Costa, who is by far the biggest mouthpiece of Ambassador Jose Imambuaka. Do you agree with that?
No, I think it was childish. It was not powerful. There's nothing powerful about being childish. And given the degree of admiration, I would say, and respect to his history as someone who championed the cause for many Liberians under the flagship of human rights advocacy, for a man to reduce himself to a semi-illiterate kind of attack on a political leader, not just the political leader from the All Liberian Party, but all of the political leaders came on a crossfire in a Guado way. But to me, it just reaffirmed and justify some of the information that we have had in time past. I don't know if you're quite aware of this, but comments did appear a month or two ago on Prawn FM. And when he appeared on Prawn FM, I think the best way to gauge the performance politically when when your political leader appear on the radio is based on the people's response, right? And majority of the Liberians that call question why is Cummins overly desperate? Why is he not, considering to run with alongside with Joseph Yobambwaka as a running mate?
Do you really want to go there, Mr. Yunton?
No, but we have to lay the basis. We have to lay the basis to understand why the press conference coming from the Alternative National Congress was worded in the way, form, and faction it was worded and read by Aloysius Stowe, right?
Well, yeah, according to Mr. Toh, and I'll give you a chance to respond. I just want to throw this in there. According to Mr. Toh, the other constituent members, particularly the ALP, where you are from, have been bullying the ANC, and the best way to respond to a bully is to play the bully by its own standards and games, and that's why they felt the need to do so.
So, what's the bully? How been bullying him? Like I haven't heard that. I haven't come across that.
Costa is from the ALP. He has made insults on Cummins, and you know that.
Okay, so Costa is his own man. He has his own platform. Costa does not hold leadership position.
Is he a member of the ALP?
Costa, like any other, like, so are we taking ordinary members? Like, because we see tons of ANC.
He's not an ordinary member. He's not an ordinary member.
Costa doesn't hold a position within the All Liberian Party. He's not
who champions the cause of the ALP than any other person.
So Costa is an ordinary member of the ALP. We respect his membership in the ALP, but he remains a man of his own. And we have to divulge that from the ALP.
So you disagree that the ANC had not been bullied?
I have not seen that. I'm yet to see it. I hope that I can come across it. You know, you guys can bring it. Let me see it. But I have not seen people. People have a considerable level of respect and admiration, even myself, for Adesanya Cummins. So how has he been bullied? Where?
They have complained about it. But let me come to your press conference too. Do you think the press conference by the ALP helped the situation? Because you are whining about the ANC press conference that how to went to the gutter and used unnecessary words on your leader. Your press conference did similar, maybe not at the same degree, but very similar. Did it help?
The press conference coming from the ALP read by the Deputy Secretary General. Address two things. Number one, the issue of the clarity that was needed to have been addressed regarding the framework agreement, and number two, to also inform the Liberian people of the against the character assassination and attack labored by the Alternative National Congress relative to calling Mr. Yuri a criminal. So they needed to address that. And
you think your response was strong enough
and adequately to that? Unless you are you are dogmatic and you already form your belief and your perception about Yuri and his association with Charles Taylor, you would tend not to believe all of the rants that came from.
You are an advocate of war crime code. How come you seems to be saying that Benina Yuri has done no wrong?
Bro, let's go back to history, right? And
I just want you to answer. We don't have much time, so I have to go to that history.
I have to answer and historically contextualize my position on this, and that's the only way you understand my position. Because to say I'm advocate of war crime code, and to also say that how am I justifying this, meaning that you have already, by inference, concluded your judgment that Yuri is indeed a war criminal. So then we have to go back to the history of that. Between 2000 and 2003, there are a lot of things that happened, both in Liberia and the region. The international community was concerned about peace in Liberia, but also peace across the region. Some political decisions were taken at a higher level.
This will be a whole new topic, Mr. Let me beg your indulgence. Let us not go there. It will be a whole new because of time, please. I hate to do this, but because of time. So let me bring this in because we have to conclude here. So what I want to see here is that if the investigation is concluded and it finds no wrongdoing whatsoever, which you have alleged, I'm talking about you, the ALP, will you be willing from the ALP circle to say, hey, I think we didn't act well here, so we apologize? Is that something that we should expect?
Well, in the best interest of transparency, we will be, as a party, we will be willing. The point is that we have accused no one. Again, we have accused.
And that's the disagreement. You have accused someone. You called names. You pointed to the wrong that's been done. So I mean, you still denying that.
We pointed to the wrongs that have been done. We call for investigation because all of our curiosity and best interest, not just in the framework agreement. That's
and you call people criminals.
But all of us who are bound by this framework agreement must be transparent at all times. So what we seek is transparency. So if the report comes out and say, hey, you know, there's absolutely nothing wrong with what was submitted to the National Elections Commission, that's it. You know.
Thank you, Mr. Yantan. We have to leave it there. Our concluding question here that we want you to close with, given all this, my partner Dennis Jai will say, hulu balu, that is, flaming in the CPP, something, that actually does have the propensity to derail this CPP. Do you see a possibility of this CPP coming together after this fight, uniting, unifying, and putting forth whoever will come out of your process of selecting your candidate and go into the 2023 election as a unifying force? Do you see that possibility? If yes, what are the facts and factors and dynamics that inform that?
We hope that the collaborating political parties, we hope that all of the constituent parties within the CPP can come together. I must be the first to state earnestly that it is going to be a little difficult and challenging, given all of the political punches and the bad blood that we see so far, that's erupting, through the political muscles and the faces of all of the many actors. But it's a hope and prayer that, when the storm is finally calmed, when the primary process produces the kind of leader that the people want, and whoever wins the nomination can show in themselves the first form of leadership to reconcile the party, to reconcile the CPP. And we look forward to that, and we look forward to whoever winning to working with them in making sure that happens.
And do you feel that, have you at any time felt the need that, hey, maybe we should have gone a separate way because there's too much noise? Because right now, this is the disservice that I see, right? We have people dying, according to reports in Monrovia. You are not holding the government feet to the fire. They came to Washington, D.C. on another fiasco mission. They spent our tax dollars. You're not talking about it, you are fighting.
I think the CPP and the coming together of political leaders in the opposition was a necessary fit.
Okay.
This, again, let's remember that this is an experiment.
Okay.
The coming together of political opposition leaders long before election to form an alliance has never happened before. The second thing that has never happened before, most of the political mergers we've found a collaboration in the past resulted into immediate merger based on the big elephant in the room. So if you have so much affluence, political affluence and influence, and you control the wins and copper in terms of the numbers and support, you get to lead the process of the collaboration and the merger. We saw that with the Grand Unity Party, with that former merger with the Liberia Action Party, Liberian Unification Party, and all of those parties are new to the movement. We saw that with the coming together of the Coalition for Democratic Change. So this is something unprecedented. We expect that, at a certain level, these boats.
Mr. Young, I would disagree that the Unity Party example you cited and the CDC is kind of different because, you know, based on my understanding of those two scenarios you cited, right? The CDC said, hey, come and join us. We will produce the candidate and we decide who becomes the vice candidate. I think that was similar to the Unity Party situation. Yours is different. Do you agree?
No, that amounts to historical political collaboration, and that's the angle from which I take it, right? Okay. So you come with your proposal, other people join it. That's a collaboration in itself, right? Mm-hmm. And those collaborations, even as far as dating back as 1997, there was a political collaboration, a form of merger between the two party, Liberal Action Party, the Unity Party. This has not produced the kind of result that we are now seeing from the collaborating political party. So this case is a test case. It's going to set the political baseline for any form of collaboration and merger in the future. And we look forward to ensuring, we want to see that happen. We want to see this particular experiment work and become successful, and that all of our political leaders and all of us in general in the CPP can work together and rescue Liberia in 2023.
Mr. Yunton, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for having me. Always a pleasure.
That was the voice of Mr. Larama Yunton, a proud member of LLP. Folks, this is how we'll come to the end of this broadcast here at Focus on Liberia on the Hour of Politics with me, Ansony Sieh, your host. We educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Well, the next time you see us, we will be back here with another interesting topic. Our program, Tough Talking Thursday, comes on this evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. You do not want to make it. Again, you do not want to miss it because it will be politically powerful. The analysts, the panelists, they are all set. They will be talking about ritualistic killing. What is this thing going on in our country? We heard about a leak audio tape, Ellen Conqueror talking to our Solicitor General, and up to now, even though the president is being accused, there has not been someone called in, and we've seen dead bodies reportedly in the streets and in the corners in Monrovia. And a police will have a press conference and say, hey, they just want to make the president government to look back. Really? How is that any professionalism on the part of this police chief? Hey, don't take my words for it. They will be here live, Tough Talking Thursday this evening on Focus on Liberia, and you do not want to miss it. The song says we are all Liberians, and as always here at Focus on Liberia, that song closes us. Again, that song closes up. Thank you, and I'll see you again. Bye-bye.
We are Liberians.